I'm Kylie and I'm going to show you guys today how to make cookies. So my goal here today is just to help you guys, mentor you a little bit on cooking. We'll be going through doing a series on how to cook easy dinners, hard dinners, desserts, all that kind of stuff. So, and we'll progress them more as we go along. So we're going to start today with chocolate chip cookies. These are one of my favorite, and they are sourdough discard chocolate chip cookies. So usually you have to have a sourdough starter if you want to make these, and I would definitely recommend it. So what we're going to start with first is to do our dry ingredients, and we're going to mix them in a separate bowl. So I started already with 4 cups of flour. So you want 4 cups of all-purpose flour, and then we're going to add 2 teaspoons of baking soda and 2 teaspoons of salt. So I'm just going to pour these in here, and so a teaspoon is about this size. If you do not have an actual teaspoon, I'm really bad about just using one of these. This is about equal to a teaspoon. Bigger spoon is about equal to a tablespoon. If you're in a real pickle, a teaspoon, use 3 of these, that's going to equal a tablespoon. It's not exact perfect, but it works. So next we are going to do 4 teaspoons of cornstarch. You can use arrowroot too if you don't have cornstarch, but I usually have cornstarch always on hand, so that's what I'm going to use. So we're just going to add these. And then maybe a spoon. We're just going to stir these all up. So and we're going to set them aside for later. So next what we're going to do is brown our butter. So this part, typically you just melt your butter and throw it in. This one we're going to brown. It gives it like a little bit of more nutty flavor without putting nuts in it. And it just adds like a little bit to it. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so now that we are going to brown our butter, we're just going to turn on our burner to about medium heat. And we're going to want 3 sticks of butter, which is 1.5 cups. So we're just going to stick them on in there and let them heat up. Okay, so now we've got our butter is almost melted. You can see still got a little bit of chunks in here. You can notice it's starting to boil a little bit on the edge, so we like that. We want it to brown up a little bit. So we're gonna let that sit here for a little bit while it boils. Okay, so now we got our butter really starting to brown up here, starting to see all the little bubbles in it. So we're gonna let that go for just a little bit longer because we don't want to burn it. We just want it to get nice and a little bit brown like this. So now that it's browned up, we're going to take this off and just let it cool. Okay, now we have our butter all cooled. So we're going to start with our wet ingredients. So we're going to do 2 cups of brown sugar and 1.5 cups of sugar. So make sure you pack down your brown sugar so you get your full 2 cups, and then 1/2 cup of just regular white sugar. And we're just going to pour this in here. And next we're going to add our brown butter. So I'm going to add that on in. And then you just want to mix this up good. So give this little girl a go. She's been through a lot. She still gets the job done though. Right, now we have that decently mixed up. We are going to add our eggs. So we want 1 whole egg. We're going to add in. And then next we want just the yolk of the egg. So what I usually do for that is I'm just going to crack my egg, and I'm going to carefully let all the white come out and drain it into my little bowl so I can keep my yolk separate. So I'm sure there's easier ways to do it, but if you know, let me know, because I don't. So now we have our little egg yolk stuck in our shell. I'll throw that sucker in there. So now we want to mix this up really good as well. So don't go too high. I don't have a shield for this, so that's not good. So happy to get it off Facebook Marketplace, but 15 years still running, $70, not bad. Okay, so now we got our butter, our sugar, and our eggs all mixed up. We are going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. So smart to use a teaspoon. I don't, because I'm lazy. So it's about a teaspoon. Also, I've probably cooked enough that I know what a teaspoon looks like. Also, I don't follow directions very well. So baking, it's important to follow instructions, so measure is good. So we got our vanilla mix in, and next is our little secret ingredient is our sourdough discard. So if you guys do sourdough, then you know you feed your starter every day and you have to take out half and discard it. So when you take out your discard, I always save my discard because nobody in my family really likes sourdough bread but me, and that's a lot of work for just a loaf of bread. So I use sourdough for pretty much all kinds of things. Cookies especially, these are our favorite. But you can use like bagels, pizza crust, cinnamon rolls, all kinds of stuff. So mostly I keep my sourdough just for the discard. So now we're going to get 1 cup of our discard. I always use a plastic fork to get it out because you just don't want to get the stuff in your sinks or your drains because it's like cement and you're going to ruin your pipes. So I just will use a plastic fork and throw it away. Or if I use a real fork, then I will really wipe off with a paper towel before I put it in the sink. So now I got our 1 cup of sourdough discard. We're gonna add that in. I should have kept my fork. This stuff's sticky. So now we're just going to get that all in there. Ooh. Set that aside, we don't want that in the sink. And fire her up again. So normally I don't use my KitchenAid. I tend to use a bowl and a fork to make everything. Just like I said, it's a lot of effort, and that's how I always did it. I didn't have a KitchenAid for a long time, so I just used what I had. And that's one of the things about cooking is you don't always need a fancy kitchen. You don't need all the fancy dishes and whatnot. You can make do. Is it easier with all the stuff? Of course, but I never really had them, so I just made do with what I had. So next, now that we got this all mixed up, we are going to add all of our dry ingredients we just mixed up together. So you want to do half at first. You don't want to overwhelm it, otherwise it's going to be too hard to get it all mixed up. So we're just going to dump about half. Make sure you get it all in there, not on the counter like I did. Whoops. I'll just give that a good whirl. Get her all good mixed up. You don't want to overmix it though, because then it can make your cookies really tough or chewy. So we don't want to overmix. So that looks about good. And we're going to dump in the rest of our dry ingredients. We're going to go this way this time, so maybe I don't spill them. And nope, still spilled a little bit. That's okay. So next, fire her up again. I'm going to go a little slow because I put a lot more dry this time. So still going. Alright, that looks about good. So you want to look at your ingredients and see, like, are we too sticky? Are we too wet? Are we too dry? And I would say we're just about perfect. So if it's too wet still, add a little bit of flour. If it's too dry, add a little bit of melted butter. And then you're good to go. So now we're going to add our chocolate chips. The recipe calls for a cup of semi-sweet and a cup of milk chocolate, but I don't like semi-sweet chocolate chips. So I do just plain milk chocolate. If you want to do some of both, then I mean, go for it. That's what the recipe calls for. It might be better, but personally, I am just a milk chocolate fan. I don't like the semi-sweet. Don't know why. Anyway, you want it about a cup, so I'm just gonna about dump them in. That looks good. And we're gonna give her a little bit of another coat. Don't want to mix too much. And we're about good. So now we are going to want to get all of our cookie mix out of here. And we're going to put it in the fridge. We're going to cover it with some saran wrap and put it in the fridge for about 30 minutes to chill it before we cook it. So, okay, so now we have our cookie dough out of the fridge, sufficiently chilled. So we're going to get our cookie sheet. For some reason, I have a very tiny cookie sheet today, which matches my very teeny trailer that we're cooking in today. So I would use parchment paper. I would highly suggest parchment paper because they do not stick when you use that, so that's always nice. And then you just get your little cookie scoop. Sometimes I use a spoon, like always. I'm always going to go for a fork or spoon. But for the purpose of the video, we're going to use our cookie scoop. And we're just going to get our old ball size and put them down on our thing. So we are just going to, this one is not going to fit very many cookies. So what we're going to do is probably do about 8 on here. This recipe makes a really huge batch of cookies. One of the reasons, one of my favorites, because I think last time I made it, it made like 75 cookies or something like that. So if you have like your kids coming in late at night and being like, I'm supposed to make this for school. That was a common thing around our house. 8 o'clock at night and they forgot something for school. But this one is a good one for that because it goes pretty far. So now that this is not going to fit very many. I think about 8 on here. So what we're going to do now, we got our cookies on our sheet. We have our oven preheated to 350 and we're just going to slide them on in. And we're going to time about 12 minutes. So it says 12 to 14 minutes. I usually go 12 first just so I don't burn them. I want to make sure that they get sufficient time, but not too sufficient. And here we go. So I will see you back here in a minute when they're done. Alright, so we're back, guys, because our timer went off, and so our cookies should be done. Which 12 minutes usually is just about right, so we're going to pull these out of here and put them on the counter. And get your spatula, and we're going to put them on the cooling sheet. If you're anything like me, I have probably much burn off all the nerves in my fingers, so I just use my fingers because it's hot, but it's okay. Now we're going to get these all out of here, and then you're going to take your cookie dough, and you're going to repeat. And we're just going to do that until all of our cookies are cooked and cooled. So I will see you back here when that's done. And we are back, and all our cookies are now cooked. As you can see, it makes a ton of cookies. So they look a lot like hockey pucks, but they are nice and soft inside, and they're going to stay soft for several days. So normally I would put them away in a Tupperware container or a Ziploc bag, but I'm going to leave these on the platter today just because I know when all the boys get home, they will probably just devour them. But if you're going to store them, you can get out your crusty, dusty Tupperware containers. You all have one, I know you do. And to keep them soft, I'd put in either a slice of white bread or some marshmallows because that's going to extend their life and keep them quite a bit softer for a while. That bread absorbs the moisture. I don't know what it does, but it does something. It makes them soft. So usually I just do a Ziploc bag because that's easy and they go pretty fast. So it's not worth dirtying up my containers. So anyways, this is our sourdough chocolate chip cookies. So delicious. Thank you guys for joining me. And if you want to continue to learn how to cook or my version of cooking, then continue to follow along. Give me a follow. And thank you guys for joining, friends. And I'll see you next time.